3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Quinn Kush from Tendercore. Thanks for coming.
Hey, very excited to be here.
We're going to talk a lot about all sorts of different stuff, but we're going to have to give some people some grounding from where you come from and what Tendercore is so they know, mate.
Amazing. So yes, my name is Quinn Kush. I created my business called Tendercore, which is about reshaping relationships and intimacy through more softness and presence. So Tendercore is a lot about creating both one-on-one experiences just with me and group experiences for people to be able to question and deepen their own pleasure.
Uh-huh. And do you think that this is something that is just not talked about enough, not mentioned, and therefore gets left by the wayside?
Of course. I mean, we have no education when it comes to pleasure, when it comes to sex. There's nothing in schools. Everything is very taboo when it comes to bringing up these parts of our lives. Though everyone's having sex, everyone wants to love and be loved. Relationships are the cornerstone of our existence, but we have absolutely no education. It's like you think about the first time that you sleep with someone, you just kind of in assumptions or just fumbling around or just assuming it feels good. And then, of course, we have like porn, and not all porn is bad, but lots of porn is very aggressive. It's very fast. It's very, it's very fantasy. There's a lot of fantasy around it. Huge guys with no hair on them, with massive dicks, and then all of these like blonde bombshells with Botox and huge tits, and it's just creating this completely inappropriate, forever chasing dream of what you're supposed to look like and how you're supposed to have sex, and it's just not like that at all.
And look, the internet, social media, all that stuff is to blame for a lot of that stuff of people not understanding or realizing what a real person looks like. And that is even going to become more and more problematic with technology and AI and people that you're looking at that aren't even real to begin with.
That's exactly what's happening. Like from COVID to the rise of AI to the fact that we're actually we're internalizing the capitalistic structure. So capitalism asks us to go, make all this money, hustle, get burnt out, not prioritize ourselves. And then now we have that so deeply embedded in us that we are valued for what we do, not who we are. And that means that we're just on caffeine, on drugs, on this really fast sort of paced structure, which means we actually can't enjoy as much our relationships, and we've become further away from ourselves, which means that we're just in actually a state of loneliness as an era, as a society, which is just going to keep happening, which means more and more people are feeling further away from themselves and craving to have deeper relationships.
Yeah, I think it's been said a lot, but we've never been so connected, but we've never been so removed as a race with the internet and with social media and with phones in your pocket and all that sort of stuff. So people do, I think, they will crave that sort of physical attention.
Exactly. And I think that's what I've really noticed. So Tendercore is my business, but then actually I define myself as a relationship anarchist, which we can talk about. Also a sensual and erotic masseuse, as well as a cuddle therapist. And so the cuddle therapy itself is for people who are craving touch and are feeling very lonely. And I'm having a lot of people who are coming to me who are post-breakup or who haven't been in relationship for a long time or are actually so trapped in their heads, in their minds, because that's what this system does to us, that it disconnects us from our body and from touch altogether, which is something that we have growing up, that we need from our parents. That's what helps us grow. That's what makes us feel safe. And then over the years that we grow up, touch becomes really politicized, becomes a bit of a crime scene, becomes sexualized, becomes very taboo. And so we lose something that was innately not sexual, and it's become very sexual. So we think that we can only get that from relationships. So I'm working a lot in the realm of, I guess, touch therapy without calling it that. A lot of what I'm doing is a blend of sex work. It's a blend of breath work. It's a blend of healing. It's a blend of, actually just connecting authentically with people and helping them to connect to their authentic sense of self too.
So it's very interesting, but let's talk about your journey of how you got to there. So where does this journey of You've just mentioned it's a blending of massage therapy, touch therapy, all that sort of stuff. So how did your journey in that sort of begin?
Yes. So it was around the COVID times, and I had contemplated. I'd never really contemplated being in sex work. I'd never had to. I had a lot of people around me in the queer community, and again, I think sex workers are also very badass anarchists, sort of that really don't care what society thinks. And so I had always been curious about it. So I went into working into an erotic massage parlor because I liked working with massage, with touch. And then whilst I was in there, I started to see that men were coming into this space thinking that they were really craving sex and a release. And they were having that, but at the end of the day, it was actually more intimacy that they were craving, that they felt like they were missing. And so I saw men walk into these erotic massage parlors with all this armor on of who they had to be out in the world, very stiff, very like, I'm a man, I'm here. And then as soon as they came into the space with me, I would see all of that drop off, and I would see this softness come out, and I would see this ability for them to be able to be little boys without this armor on. And so although they came in seeking something that came from the cock, it was actually when I would pat their heads and hold them and see them, it was actually a whole other layer of intimacy that I don't even think that they realized that they needed. And so I started doing that. And during that time, I was giving out maybe 10 of those a week. And I started thinking to myself, I want this experience. Why are men allowed to just pay for sex work and walk into any establishment, just in 5 minutes be able to receive pleasure? Why is that? And so
because it is very much female workers and male clientele. That's
Yeah.
Right.
And also because we've been sold that, firstly, it's appropriate for men to be able to just do that. But secondly, I would say, and this is very gendered right now, but I would say that women, and not all men, but women are also seeking, I suppose, intimacy in a different way. They're not necessarily wanting to just get off or have someone give them pleasure to relieve an itch. They're actually more craving to be held, to be seen, to flirt, to connect on that deeper level before they're maybe having sex. Whereas I think men, it's kind of the opposite way around. And so I was looking for that experience and I couldn't find them anywhere. And so I just decided to become her. So I decided I'm going to be a sensual masseuse, more so a queer masseuse. To be able to not necessarily do it in the same way that I'm doing it in the erotic massage parlor, because that is a bit more sexual, but co-collaborate with people and create art with people in the sense of creating something that feels good for them, meeting them where their needs are at, and also integrating in a lot more intimacy and connection than just this kind of wham bam, thank you ma'am experience.
Yeah. And so that sort of space didn't really exist that you could find.
The space exists, but it's there's either like tantric massage, which I think comes from, that comes from the Indian sort of heritage, but has been kind of brought into the neo-spiritual world of tantra, which a lot of the time people, it's not as palatable for them. They don't, what is this thing? I don't really know. Then there's also more hardcore stuff, I guess, the hardcore BDSM, the erotic massage that, again, is a bit more sexual. I think the stuff that I've created is a blend between sex work. It's a blend between like a touch therapy. It does have tantric properties. I am working with energy work. So I would say for specifically what I'm doing, I don't think it existed.
Because I think years ago, decades ago, before the internet, there was a little bit more of that stuff happening, and I guess people turned to online to meet people, and that kind of probably changed that whole erotic scene as well.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, there's many people that are doing sexuality work. There's sex coaches, there's practitioners, there's also sexological body work, which is more of the association around something, the most similar thing to what I do. But the thing that I do is I'm actually, like, most of the time for the sensual massage, I've got my clothes off and that person has their clothes off. Now, you can choose if you don't want to do that and if you don't want me to do that. But a lot of the time when people feel very disconnected from themselves and their body and their aliveness, I'm coming in as a conduit for their pleasure to be able to use my nervous system, to be able to use my sense of self and my touch to be able to ignite them to connect in back with that. So it's a form of co-regulation. And I'm also kind of coming in as like a girlfriend experience where I can replicate the depths of how you could feel in relationship to see what comes up in your body and see how you feel and create a new reference point for a pleasure that you might not know exists or enable you to feel safe enough to let your guards down, to know that that is possible.
Yeah, it's such an interesting field that I don't know too much about. And the girlfriend experience thing, I guess it's going to be a lot of people that have gone and paid for sex as a transaction, but they want more of that actual relationship sort of experience.
Well, the girlfriend experience in the more sex worker realm, because I'm kind of playing in between a few realms. In the sex worker realm, a lot of the time is people that maybe work in the mines or in the army, or you can work many places, but they don't actually have a lot of time to go out and date. And so, for instance, maybe they're going to like a show or, the Brownlow or something, then they can pay to actually just have a girlfriend be with them. There's also sex stuff there. There's also checking in during the day. Hey, babe, how are you? Show me the shirt you're wearing. Like actually fully indulging in the parts of being in a relationship that you don't have, and so you're paying someone to be that for you.
I didn't know that existed.
That's definitely, I think, what a lot of women are desiring to receive as sex work clients, because it isn't necessarily just having sex. You're actually relating. For me, I'm not doing that so much outside of my sessions. Mine is more that it takes some people only feel vulnerable enough to be, some people can only be vulnerable with an intimate partner. And so I'm replicating the intimate partner in a session, both in a connected space of just talking, but also holding and touching and comforting them to enable them to remember that space, to see what comes up in their body, because what might be stopping them from receiving more pleasure, or what might come up as constriction in their body that's, stopping them from having these relationships or stopping having a deep amount of pleasure. And so I'm kind of coming in as this reference point for what happens in their intimacy.
Because it's all psychological, really, isn't it? As much as it's physical touching and whatever, it's all psychological.
I think many things are psychosomatic. Like, for instance, you can take saying having like erectile dysfunction. I think sometimes there is something that's physically going on. That is true. And a lot of the time, if you have these limited beliefs in your mind that you're not good enough and that you're a failure, that you've had there since you've been very young, of course, it's going to affect your performance when you come into this incredibly vulnerable space. So I think a lot of the time, many things are very, we're only really now just in this how connected the mind and the body are. And so a lot of my work is psychosomatic, and it is about giving you an experiential experience so that you know how things should feel. So you can actually liken it to taking like mushrooms or acid or ayahuasca, where you go and you have that trip and you can't ever really explain it to someone. You can't be like, oh, dude, I saw this and I saw that. It's like, it's actually a felt experience that you have, that now you can, I guess, work towards being able to feel again. That's what I do. It's giving sex and intimacy more of a spiritual aspect than what we know it to be, which is very mechanical.
Yeah. And with the internet and, like you said, porn before, it becomes that sort of more mechanical, and there's a screen involved. Like, it's not actually a human person. So you're trying to change all that.
Yeah.
But you said that you think porn can be good, but it also can be very negative.
I think I really don't want to throw shade on porn, because there's so much that that liberates women in it, and there's so much ethical porn now, and there's so much that porn can give us to give permission and to break down taboos and to recognize that you don't feel isolated in certain desires. And so I really advocate for porn. It just needs to be done better, because the porn that we've been grown up with, or that is really more of the majority of the porn, is very aggressive. It's very aggressive, and it's just not reality. It's not reality for any of us to look a certain way, and it's not reality to just be turned on straight away either.
Yeah,
Like,
from the male and the female perspective.
both people
Yeah.
are affected by this industry, and so more people that are coming out there creating new versions of what that is. And I think generally we've become more ready to open up sexuality into our psyche. It's becoming a part of wellness. I mean, it's still really censored online, but it is becoming a little bit more normalized for people to do that type of work on themselves. And then each time more of those people do that, it gives permission for more people to be like, yeah, I'm doing that.
So do you want to break down the stigma that would be involved in somebody maybe going to a parlor or erotic massage? It might be you want people to be at lunch and just say, yep, I've been feeling a bit down lately, so I wanted to reconnect, so I went to this erotic massage. That's the kind of where you want to get to with society?
For sure. I think sexuality just needs to be normalized like death does, like grief does, like all of these parts of the psyche that I guess have been cut out of the Western and also Australian way of life. Like you look at Mexico and they have the Day of the Dead festival. You look at Berlin and it's just going out and having sex is just like drinking water. Like it's just so normalized. So I guess for me, I want to help normalize how important it is to work on these parts of us, because that's also where the biggest amount of growth can be. You know, that's how we are born. That is what we are. Everyone is doing these things and everyone wants to be in relationship more than anything in the world. I would say that's the biggest thing people want, to love themselves and to be in love with another.
Yep.
So why is it so taboo? So for me, I want it to be more normalized. I want us to not shove it into the back of the psyche so it's this big scary thing. I want people to see and feel that the more that you speak about it or the more that you open up, the more that gives other people the permission to do so. And that also helps us judge ourselves less, which makes us like ourselves more. And the thing is, as soon as you step into a sexuality space, maybe it's a parlor, maybe it's one of my events, maybe it's just going to a talk on someone talking about something sex related, like that's just taking one step forward. And then you realize, oh, it's actually not as fearful as maybe what I thought it was. You don't need to make these huge expectations of what's going to happen. Just like, all right, I'm going to rock up. I'm going to rock up. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to just do this one time. Maybe I'll just do the cuddle therapy today. And then you see how you feel. Do I feel okay? Do I not? What happened? What do I learn about myself? What came up? And then you take another step.
Yeah, well, I guess at this point in time, people are talking more about it. And when you said sort of geographically, in Australia, we're pretty behind the times with a lot of places. Like I know you've been to Berlin recently and that's a different sort of thing. But at least here in Australia, Melbourne at least, sex work is legal, which I don't think it is in a lot of places around the world. So that's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction that even people are talking about sex work and that this is kind of up there with, normalizing the rights of people. Like it's disgusting that women who are actually just working, need money, want to sell themselves, want to liberate themselves from not having money, that this has actually been something that's been demonized in the past when it's actually the original profession.
That's what people say. It's the oldest profession around.
It's the oldest profession around. So I think in one regard, it's incredible that it's actually at a topic of conversation. And in another, it's absolutely frightening that people are still being killed doing this work.
Yeah, I grew up around St Kilda and there was legal brothels, but also you'd see a lot of people working on the street and that sort of thing. And like, at least here we've got those capacities where the actual facilities, people are tested, there's security, there's all that sort of stuff, which is a step in the right direction compared to a lot of different places. I think even other places around Australia don't even have that sort of stuff. So I guess we're in the right direction.
Yeah, like it's back and forth. I think just also society as a whole, because the Australian society, because we come, we're babies of England, and this sort of people pleaser, more like white mindset, a bit more prudish sort of society are still really discluding, uninclusive, women from feminism. Like, okay, yeah, we've got feminism, but we don't include women who sell their bodies. You know, that's still beneath us. And there's still a lot of, I guess, just discrimination from seeing women who sell themselves as less than, when it's ridiculous, because perhaps if you were put in that situation, like, you would need to do that too. And also, a lot of the women absolutely love the job that they're doing. And also, when you go into doing sex work, you're going into sex university. You have to learn your own boundaries. You have to grow a spine and a backbone. You get to actually see what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like in this really shadowy part of society, in this darker part of society. You have to learn how to get rid of a lot of your own shame and deal with the fact that, oh, wow, I'm doing this. What would I think? What do people think of me? You know, there's a lot of shame in these places. So being able to meet those parts of yourself, I think, in one regard, people are really disrespectful of sex workers. And in another, I think a lot of people would really dream to actually have the courage that they do.
Yeah. So I think with a lot of people, they may not have a great experience working in somewhere like that, but for you it was. But you can only talk about your own experience. But I'm sure for a lot of people, they didn't enjoy that and maybe they've moved on.
I mean, I'm never going to glorify what it is to work in those places. You know, even within the workers' community, there are hierarchies of, you know, if you're an escort and you charge thousands of dollars versus if you're in a parlor with the walls falling down and you get $200 to sell your body, you know, something like that. There's a lot of even hierarchy and judgment within the industry itself.
Right.
Of course, I had bad experiences. Many people do have that, and that really shows you the reflection of how much work there is to do and how much there is a lack of consent and how much entitlement men do think that they have over women's bodies. But in the same regard, so much of it actually made me love men. And that's the part that I was saying to you before, where it was like, I saw a deeper part of their humanness through seeing them soften, through seeing them fall into less of an egotistical space and see them fall into their hearts. And actually, instead of seeing them as these, people coming in to have sex and wearing this armor and a bit spiky and protected, I actually got to see when they feel not judged and when you're able to feel safe and when you're able to feel authentically seen, how much men can soften and how beautiful that is and how much more connected and how safe you feel when you see men be able to be in their softness and their intimacy, in their heart space.
Is it regular to have regular clients in that sort of thing? It is. So people, and that's where I guess they do feel that more of a connection because they're going back and having an intimate experience maybe more so than they would with anyone out in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And, and a lot of the time this circles back to what we're talking about. People don't have time to be present with people. Because we're in this hard and fast thing, a lot of people are just seeking, well, what can I get from you? Or I've got to tick this off the box, or one thing after the next, to-do list, let's go. But when you're actually paying for someone's time, whether it's intimate or not, like whether it's sexual or not, like presence and actually being seen and being felt by someone is something that we actually really, really have these days on a deep, authentic level.
Yep. Even just on a mental level, doing something like this, putting the phones and just talking is something we don't get to do that often anymore, Because even if you're out with having coffee with someone, people are on their phones or they're getting distracted. Even just chatting like this is cool to do.
Exactly. And because we're in deep presence with each other, we're in the present, which I think a lot of the time that's actually what's really disconnecting people the most from connection to themselves. It's hard for us to be present now because we're seeking just the next dopamine hit, every moment to moment. It's harder for us to be present. Also because there's so much shit fuckery going on in the world. There's so much grief. There's so much fear. There's so much unknown that if we actually take a moment and be in the presence, all of those things can come crashing in. So it's a lot about figuring out that none of these feelings are inherently bad. It's just about getting to know all of these parts and feelings so that we can be able to navigate, so that we can not be afraid of being in the present.
Yeah, there's a lot going on globally, which affects everybody, I think. But it's very interesting now because we were talking just off camera earlier that people are going so far one way and so far the other way, and what did you say? Just everyone's being too extreme, which is making hard for everybody to kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah, I think everyone has become extreme into their own little bubbles of what they believe. I think politics have become a lot more radicalized, a lot more Americanized. And it's feeling like if you don't fit into this box, then you're in that box. And there's a lot of us versus them mentality.
Yeah, it's like a search for labels. Like, do we need to label everything? You know what I mean? And I think that comes back to the left wing, right wing thing. Like, you have to be one. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's very complicated because if you don't tick all of the boxes of one specific thing, then you can't be in that side. The minute that you think, oh, maybe I'm thinking a little bit just about this thing. Oh, well, so you're that then. It's very difficult. We've actually lost the non-binary. We've lost the nuance when it comes to thinking about, different things. Because the minute that we other someone, it means that we've lost empathy in them. And what's then happening too is actually we're fighting each other instead of actually putting our energy towards fighting the politicians and the corporations.
And do you know what is pretty much directly responsible for this? It'd be social media is a huge part of it because people create their little echo chambers and then it's easy to dislike something and then you go down a different rabbit hole,
Yeah, and there's the algorithm, which also we don't even understand, is like feeding us certain things. So it's rigged to what we're actually watching in the first place, but also because social media, especially when it comes to like texting and when it's not got videos, but it's actually just sort of more words or photos and things like that, that's actually not there's not heart in that. That's still intellect. That's still mind. That's not so much the somatic or the body or the feeling. And I think as the world continues to be a little bit more harsh and we are being run by rulers that are actually just psychopaths, which means that they are lacking empathy. So as a society, we are losing our empathy, which is actually the most terrifying thing in the entire world because somebody who doesn't have empathy is able to do really traumatic things to people who lack empathy. It's very difficult to be able to work together or to heal as a collective or to be able to, be in relationships with anyone.
Yep. And relationships, this is an interesting one. So do you believe in polyamory? I can't even say it. Polyamory, or do you believe in monogamy? I'm guessing you're more on the polyamory side.
Yeah, so...
Or whatever works for the individuals.
Yeah, of course. So for me, I use the term relationship anarchist.
Okay.
So relationship anarchy, I think as a term, is only about 20 to 30 years old. Basically what it is that the way in which we view relationships, that we've been told this is how it is, this is how you treat someone, this is what a relationship looks like, you do this, you do that, you do this, that's actually a framework that's been sold to us. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you look further back, the framework is also very white settler, it's very colonial, it's very, a woman needs to be with a man and you need to just be over here with our community. You be with this one person. And a lot of the time also women needed to be with men to get credit cards, to get houses, to have children, all of these things. And so it was a way of also keeping men to be able to have what they want, I guess. So anyway, it's actually, relationship anarchy is about creating your relationships to be whatever you want them to be. So there's one part where people just go and take the piss out of relationship anarchy when they don't want to commit to someone and they just say, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. I'm not going to pick the kid up because I'm a relationship anarchist. I'm going to cheat on you because I'm a relationship anarchist. That's really throwing shade on what the concept is. The concept is very much about the fact that you can create your relationships to be whatever you want. So for instance, for me, I have a lot of intimacy and touch with my relationships with friends. I don't only reserve my touch and affection for my partner. I have lots of touch, connection. I'll kiss a lot of my friends. We'll have sleepovers. We'll sleep nude. Sometimes it's sexual, sometimes it's not. But we know what the relationship is. So for me, a lot of relationship anarchists also don't have hierarchy on their relationships. So their actual sexual partner will be the same as their best friend. They won't treat them any differently. To me, I don't identify so much with polyamory just because I don't actually have enough time for one relationship, let alone 17. For me, I think I would just be like, I'm just open. I think also it's not as simple as that. I think that you need to build trust with a partner and really, build that, have that, create that, and then figure out really specifically what it is that you are seeking to have with another person. Sometimes I think it can be open. Sometimes I think it doesn't need to be. But at the end of the day, it's actually that we can have so many different people to fulfill so many different parts of us, and we don't need to put the pressure or expectation for our lover, our partner, to be all those things for us. They just don't need to be.
No. And also, when people are together for long periods of time, relationships evolve and all sorts of stuff. And we've seen that generations before us, the normal sort of partnership potentially can break down and people go their separate ways. Now with money and stuff, people are staying together even when they couldn't, when they probably shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, because also like there's these really funny memes like, I'm poly for the rental crisis.
Yeah.
It's like now we can just split it 3 ways, So it's actually about banding together to figure out, okay, how can we both just be happy? How can we figure this out? It hasn't worked for us before, so maybe this is going to work for us in having these new relationships. But I think at the end of the day, we need to be strengthening and deepening and opening our hearts instead of closing them, because stuff is actually just going to get more chaotic, and we need to have community. We need to understand ourselves deeply, and we need to have almost an abundant, overflowing amount of tools, friends, mentors, healers, community to be able to band together, to have more of a village mentality and mindset when it comes to what the future is going to hold for us.
Yeah, and it's all about education as well, and telling people that is cool if you want to be in that community, but if you're not into it, then you just do your thing,
It's also totally fine. I think at the end of the day, we just need to be celebrating people for doing whatever they need to do, as long as it's not hurting other people. I think there's nothing wrong with any way in which people are living their lifestyles. As long as people are happy, I think we can learn a lot about different people living in different ways. And again, this is trying to bring back more fluidity and less of the extreme judgment from either sides.
Yeah. We've sort of talked about sex work in general, but in maybe like the last 5 years, OnlyFans and that subscription thing has kicked off, which has changed people's mentality of how that whole industry works, I'm guessing.
Yes. OnlyFans and being able to access, I think, intimacy and sexuality online has been a really big part of, again, giving permission, again, having all different types of bodies and all different types of ethnicities of people to again, break down what we only knew porn to be. So I think it's been incredible because there is a lot more support behind now. What is a woman? It could be so many things. They can have different skin, they can have different genitalia, they can have different, all these different things. So I think OnlyFans has been really good for platforming people who wouldn't usually have accessibility to work in those spaces, or that have a really unique look, to be able to be seen, not only so that they can make money, but also so that they can then give a representation to other people who might be disabled but want to show their body, things like that.
Yeah, I guess on the flip side though, it does sort of give people these unrealistic expectations that they can start an account and make money, which is not always the case.
I mean, the thing is, if you have a good niche concept, for me, every time people talk to me about my work, they're like, it's so niche. It's so niche what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, and it's working. So I think I've seen some pretty wild accounts on there. I'm still yet to go on to OnlyFans. I definitely will. I've got a bit of an angle of doing a bit of ecosexuality, which is people who are turned on by nature and working with nature. And I am both in a sensory way really into that, and also turned on by bringing people back to nature, because it brings us into presence. So again, it's looping back in with what I want to do with my overall education. But for me, I am actually more inspired by doing live transmissions, live softcore sensual performances. So that's another aspect of what I'm doing in terms of giving people permission and showing people what safe consensual touch can be. So
Can you break that down of how that sort of stuff works?
yes, so I will do performances that are basically me showing people similar things to what I do in my session. So the live nude massage I'll do. And basically that gives people the opportunity to see what slow, safe, consensual intimacy looks like. Because maybe you haven't seen that. Maybe you don't know. Maybe because of porn, everything has just been a little bit rough. And so for me, the performances, they start off very slow. It's bringing people back to the subtlety of how erotic it can be to just slowly take someone's clothes off. For me, slowly taking someone's clothes off or someone slowly taking my clothes off is sex. Like, that is just such a turn on to me. But of course, when you're in this hard and fast environment all the time and you're used to that, inside your mind, it's like you've just had a coffee. You're like, just take the fucking thing off me. Like, let's go. But there's so much that we can learn from that slow space. And so the performances are very slow. Sometimes it can make people feel very uncomfortable that it's so slow. But that, again, shows you, oh, okay, I need to figure out how to slow down. Other people will cry when they're witnessing it because they're like, I didn't even know that that existed. I didn't even know that it existed to be able to show this type of devotion to a person. It's very devotion energy with the performances, a lot of worshipping, a lot of nurturing, lots of actually very motherly qualities inside of the performance. Though I tend not to call it performance because I don't feel like I'm actually performing.
So how many people are we talking generally?
I mean, it can be so varied. I can do it in front of 10 people. I can do it in front of 50. I've done it in front of hundreds before. And there are parts of it that do show the erotic as well, but it also shows like the aftercare. So it's kind of like a journey of courting someone, worshipping them, taking it slow with them, and then coming closer, putting them on the massage table, actually massaging, and it's a bit more erotic. And then there's the aftercare of me holding the person, and we're giggling, we have a kiss. So they're performances that I do, again, to recreate what we know porn to be, but also to show what happens behind the bedroom, because we don't see more of these sort of intimate parts of the sex experience.
It's an interesting new world that I'm not that familiar with. So where would it obviously there's venues that you do these at. Do they have to be erotic venues? Can they be normal venues? How does it work?
I mean, a lot of the time I'm doing these performances at sex positive events.
Right.
So I'll do them at sex positive events because, people are already expecting things like that. It is a little bit more tricky to do them in random spaces. Like, it would be very random to do it like in a pub. It would feel less safe for me, especially the person I was doing it with as well.
And there's legalities around that stuff, is there?
You can do nude things if you're on like a stage.
Right.
So that kind of takes that works. But for me, I can also do live erotic massage experiences at sex positive events. So besides just doing the performance, I can also be an option for people who go to or first want to put their feet, dip their toes in the sexuality spaces. Instead of feeling like, okay, what am I going to do? Are people going to want to have sex with me? What's going to happen? How do I talk to people? There's all of this overwhelming kind of fear of what's going to happen in these spaces. I'm over there on the corner, and I'm an experience that you can just come over to, and it's like it's got a boundary around it. It's got a ceiling. It's got communication. Okay, what do you want to do? Have you had this before? Do you want to be fully naked? Do you not? Let me give you this massage. And so it'll be like light genital play, some body slides, and a lot of the time it's about people being able to just actually have a professional experience in maybe being an exhibitionist or a professional experience in ticking off an intention for their night that they didn't necessarily need to go and fumble around to find.
So can break down what a sex positive event is.
Amazing. So a sex positive event is basically an event that encourages body positivity. It encourages sex positivity. It has education. It has performances. So again, there's different levels that you can go to when you're opening up, wanting to engage and start engaging in these types of spaces, because there's sex positive events, then there's like a sex party. You know, so if you're like, whoa, I don't know if I can go to a sex party, I'll go to a sex positive event.
And these are happening all around Melbourne?
Everywhere, so many.
Right. Okay.
So many. There's ones for different, I guess, flavors of people who feel a bit more kinky and want a bit of the harder stuff. There's like maybe Oz Kink Fest. Then if you have a partner and you just want to start to get into more swinging, there's like just smaller swinging stuff. There's more queer things. There's queer underground sauna sex parties. But there's different levels of it. There's also many workshops that you can go to, or temple nights where you go, you get guided, you practice your consent, and then you can practice walking up to people and asking if you want to explore something with them. And a big part of what the education is when it comes to this type of stuff is empowering people to be able to say, do I want to do this or do I not? Mm-hmm. You know, so if you came up to me and you were like, hey, do you want to practice cuddling? I'd be like, yeah, I want to practice cuddling, but like that's it. Or we'll practice cuddling and in 10 minutes we'll check in and we'll see if we want to go further.
Because, I see online, I've never been, but I know people that run these sort of events and everyone looks so beautiful. And I'm like, that must be really daunting to people that just want to, like you said, dip their toes into a scene. So I'm guessing there's more events now that are sort of more inclusive to everybody.
Yeah, you just choose what's easiest for you. Like there are ones where you would just dress casually and you're in the crowd and you're just witnessing people telling sex stories. That's it. So you sit, you go in, you dip your toe in, you sit there. You don't have to do anything. And then you just listen and you witness. And that is a part of taking away one layer of conditioning. You know, then it could be that you're coming and you're witnessing my performance. People that witness my performance sometimes can say to me, it felt like wrong that I was watching you. It felt like it was wrong. And maybe some of those people have grown up in really like Catholic families where it's a sin to see someone doing something like that. And so they're recognizing, okay, yep, I've still got a bit of conditioning around thinking it's inappropriate that I can look at you even though you're saying that I can. So there's different levels and layers that you can do, and different types of environments as well. Sometimes they're really hard and fast and they're a party and it's like a lot. Like I've been to 1,000 people events where people are just having sex in all different rooms and partying and there's a bar and it's very overwhelming. And then maybe if you think that you're someone that's a bit neurodivergent or you need a little bit slower stim, you can go to things like Tendercore. For me, it's like 40 people, red lighting. I do a performance. Then we do some consent stuff. And then it's free play for people for the rest of the night. But again, it's like non-penetration. It's based in platonic / sensual touch. So people already know, okay, no one's going to fuck me. I don't have to fuck anyone. But I can actually just get familiar again with touch and practice it and know that if you're uncomfortable, you're going to say that to me, and know that if I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to say that to you. And so that's also a very big rewiring of creating safety and intimacy, both for ourselves and other people.
And so you've had Tendercore events this year, but there's nothing coming up in the foreseeable future if people do want to go?
So I have an event called the Touch Portal, which is what I basically just explained. I have them for both queer women, Flinter community, but then also for any sexuality and any gendered couples. And for me, having all gendered, all sexuality couples is also a very healing part of getting people from all different backgrounds, all different sexual identities to come together in the same spaces and realize that we're actually humans, all very similar. And so that's a lot about, breaking down a lot of taboos in different genders and sexualities. So the Touch Portal, there'll definitely be a few of those happening before the end of the year. I'm always doing my live performances. I'm also working on some new different performances. I do self-pleasure rituals. So also showing people how to be in self-pleasure slowly instead of in the hard, fast masturbation energy. So that's like a solo performance.
It's like foreplay with yourself.
Foreplay with yourself, slower foreplay with yourself. So I'm always doing performances that things like that. And then I'm working on building some retreats at the moment. Ooh. So besides working with me one-on-one, which I think is incredible to do, I do packages from the cuddling to doing the sensual touch to also just doing intimacy and relationship coaching. The retreats is really where I think it's at, because you can deep dive and become more comfortable, and I think make a deeper transformation, have a transformational experience with yourself over a short period of time.
Yeah, you're not sort of rushing out the door like, what just happened? You're like there and you can process it more, and then, yeah, makes more sense.
Yeah, so there'll be a tender core retreat definitely before the end of the year. And yeah, there's many events coming if you just keep in contact with me and with Tendercore through my socials. And also just reaching out to me and asking, well, what do you think of this? Because a lot of the time I do the sensual massage experiences with couples, so that's actually a really good way to work hands-on with someone, is showing them different moves, integrating sensual massage into their love life, but also just coming and seeing my performances is really powerful too.
So with the couples, it's about sort of opening their minds to what they can do and sort of teaching them. It's an interesting place to put yourself in between a couple that have potentially been together for quite a while.
For sure, but the thing is, like, we don't know what we don't know. And for me, my job as a pleasure artist is to constantly be finding new dimensions of pleasure, playing with sensations, figuring out how much pleasure I can truly feel. And there's both incredible beauty in that of like, wow, she's living it, what a vibe. And also it means I need to go into deep grief and deep shadow and deep discomfort to be able to access those deeper places of pleasure. So I really back myself in being able to hold that for people. But also, like, people get really stuck in the same ways with their couple. Everyone just can default into, oh, well, you're topping me, I'm bottoming, we do this, I know you like it like that, so we just do it like that. And also, when people have been together for a really long time, it's very hard to continue to build desire. It's hard to continue to build desire when you turn into life partners and when you're sleeping in the bed and you're fighting and you've got the kid stuff and you've got all of these like responsibilities that become very unsexy. And so for me, I'm kind of just like the sexy unicorn that comes back in and is like, hey, like, I don't want to do anything wrong by you except for just throw you out some stuff that might help you. So that can be both in in opening the relationship so that I can actually be there in more of a sexual capacity, or I'm actually just coming in and showing that person, this could be a new trick. This could be something that you like. So there's many ways to go about it. I do love doing the couple stuff. But yeah, it's honestly, the options are endless in the pleasure artist realm, and the options are endless, and the healing and growth is endless for people. That's what I want people to know is right now they could just be living in a space where they think, okay, well, this is it. This is just what it is.
A lot of people would be.
Because the thing is, we've been sold that sex is an act and you just put your cock in the pussy and like, okay, it's a period of time and then you orgasm and then that's it. But it's like, there's actually so many dimensions because pleasure itself is actually a feeling. So instead of just having the sex as an act where you feel enjoyment for a small period of time, pleasure is a feeling that you can feel for hours and hours. I can have orgasms running through my body constantly for 3 hours with no one penetrating me, but just someone rubbing themselves lightly on me or just playing with different sensations.
Is that something you've learned or something you're born with?
Well, I think that our conditioning and our trauma and our framework and our judgment and our ego and many things that the system has put on us and also the way that we've been born, I think we have this feeling body, this ability to feel sensations very largely, and then I think it's like a layer that gets put on every time that we have more shame put on us, or guilt, or the more our trust gets broken, or the more we experience sexual abuse or things like that, there's more layers that keep us away from that pleasure and that sensitivity to sensation. And so I think we are born with it in the sense that we are born innocent, and we are born feeling all of these feelings, not broken, not wrong, very innocent. Like a child is just doing whatever they want. They're not filtering themselves. But then slowly, as children become shamed for, touching themselves, or shamed for doing something sexual that embarrassed the parent, then that pleasure kind of diminishes. It goes away. It becomes, oh no, I can't do that. So yes, we're born with it. Then it gets taken away, and then
So you've got to relearn
the
it.
journey is about relearning it. The journey is about coming back to it, and the journey is about figuring out what you like, what you don't like, how to embrace saying that, and how to just be able to connect deeper into your feeling body, because that's the aliveness that I think we're all seeking.
So aside from going to one of your events, if people are listening or watching this on the other side of the country or whatever, what would you suggest that they do to start to rediscover or start that journey,
I think 101 consent work is really powerful. I think that on a whole, consent stuff is only really starting to come into the psyche for a lot of people. And unfortunately, that's because lots of it's been very broken, and we're seeing a very toxic society come out. I think that many people also think that consent work is based around sexuality and around sex. I make sure I ask that person if they want to have sex with me. It's not as simple as that. It's actually a lot deeper. Consent work is a lot about like what you want to do every day. Do I want to go and help this person when I've got a sore leg, or when I'm not okay? Like, do I want to, am I going to abandon myself? Am I going to betray myself for doing this thing for another person? Consent work is actually making your mind and your body to sync up correctly, so that you're not just doing these should things. I should do that. I should do that. And then you become bitter that you did that thing that you didn't want to do. So for me, consent work is a very deep part of getting to know yourself and getting to feel the feeling of what your true self wants in your body, not just what you think that you want. I think that's a very powerful way of being able to see your conditioning versus what your true self wants. So I think consent work is very powerful. It gets you to stand in front of people and practice saying yes, practice saying no, practice asking for what you want with regards to touch. I think that's very powerful. I think also listening to any sexuality books. Polysecure is really good. It's about people's attachment systems and being able to multiple relate. I think that also starting to see your relationships as intimate, even if they're not sexual, is really helpful.
Like a platonic relationship with a friend.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Practicing the way that you are with that person, the way that you relate, I think will also will help. I think that reading other people's desires, learning about other people's desires, listening to podcasts that start to talk about what other people desire or what their issues have been can really help you to feel not isolated in whatever yours are. And so that you're not actually feeling like this is only happening to you, or only you feel like, just you're not isolated in the experience. It's actually what a lot of people want.
Yeah, I guess so. A lot of people would find what they're into, they think that's not normal, so they push it down and they hide it, and that sort of represses them sexually. Is that sort of the idea?
Of course.
Okay.
There's a lot of shame. Like, I think also sitting with whatever you fear the most, or whatever you think is shameful, or whatever you feel embarrassed about, putting a light onto that in a way that feels comfortable for you. Maybe your therapist, maybe a group of friends. Sometimes in a workshop we'll sit around and we'll just say, all right, tell us something that you feel really afraid to tell us. Tell us something that you feel embarrassed about. And although that's edgy and that's scary, it's like when every single person does it next to you, you're like, oh yeah, totally. Like, I've done that. or thank you for sharing, or wow, you're so ballsy for saying that. You're so courageous for saying that. Like, thank you. You know, it gives other people permission, you know, and then the more that you feel other people actually want to do that or want to share that or have done it, it makes you feel less of a freak, I guess.
Yeah, I guess obviously you love what you do, but it must be hard to be professional in a capacity that you've got to go and turn on your sexy self when maybe you're not feeling like that. And I guess that's all part of the job.
Yeah, I guess. I think just then I thought you were going to say, like, because you work in intimacy, it's difficult for you to have your own intimacy. And I guess there's two parts of that. First, what you just said, I'll answer, and that is that I need to actually just take very good care of myself. Being in this type of industry, it's not as easy as just back in the day when I used to work at Revies, and you could just, you know, go drink, take drugs. You know, you didn't really need to look after yourself that well because you didn't really need to show up for other people. Your nervous system isn't tied to another. So for me, actually, at the end of the day, I just have to look after myself very, very strongly. I have to know, all right, I've got to be with this person tomorrow, so I can't smoke weed the night before, or I need to just make sure that I work out, that I exercise, so that I am not going to go downhill, so that I can show up, so that I'm not going to be affected, so that I can be present. And answering my own question, which was around my own personal intimacy, it's difficult. I have to have a lot of emotional, physical, and psychic hygiene when it comes to working with people. I need to make sure I don't think about clients too often, and I sort of keep it professional, I guess, in a way.
It'd be harder for them, I'd imagine.
I would say so, because I am giving a lot of myself to that person, and I've become maybe a representation for them about what safe, sensual intimacy feels like, and I love that, and I feel like I can protect myself in that. But at the end of the day, too, it's about just making sure that I don't turn into a facilitator when I am in my casual relationships, and when I don't have such high expectations of who I need those people to be. But I definitely, when it comes to finding lovers and being with people, I mean, they need to see me on stage pleasuring someone and not be like feeling insanely jealous and be like, who the hell is that you're slip and sliding on? You know, they need to have compersion around that, which is basically that they're turned on, that I am turned on, and that they don't take that personally. So, I guess it's a little bit harder, but I know my needs and what I want. So it means actually relating is much better.
But being a sexual person, having to work within a sexual realm has got to be good for you, though.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because my work isn't specifically sexual, because like I'm working with erotic energy, but that's actually very creative. And a lot of what I'm doing, because we're trying to shift out of the sexual aspect of what we know sex and intimacy and relating to be, to bringing it into a lot more sensual, which is sensory, which is the feeling, which is the slowness, which is the nurturing, all of these parts that we've skipped past, or that we've missed, or that we forget about. That's actually a lot more about what I'm in. So actually, it actually very much regulates me. So being in that space of slowness, it actually feels very healthy. And when it does become more erotic and more sexual, that's also just it's a very powerful energy to be playing with. So it actually very much charges me up instead of depleting me.
So then when you go overseas, like you just went to, I'm guessing you're going to a lot of parties, and there's be a lot more going on in Europe than there would be here. How do you just relax and kick back when it's that sort of party stuff's going on and all that sort of hectic stuff, man?
Yeah, I mean, Berlin was insane. It was insane. It's like Australia has a roof, and then all of a sudden you go to Europe, and there's just, the possibilities are endless. There's no roof. It's just been blown into the cosmos. There are so many integrated sex experiences over there. I went to a festival and they had like 1,000-person cruising area. It's very integrated into the lifestyle there. porn just playing in the streets on the walls, many sex performances. It's a very, very liberating place to be. It's definitely a utopia that the rest of Germany doesn't look like. For me,
does it get too much though?
I think it would get too much for a lot of people, because I went over there really seeking to find who was doing what, who was doing similar things to me. I really didn't find anyone doing something that I'm doing in this tendercore space. Of course, there are many people doing reclamation of slow, soft intimacy, but in the way that I'm doing it with this queerness and with this sort of pleasure artistry and doing my performances and integrating in all of these different aspects, I didn't find it. Yes, it's overwhelming for people because, again, the sex parties and the sex clubs, that's still the hard and fast stuff. That's still the primal drug, sex, and rock and roll vibe, which there's nothing wrong with. I got down with that. Like, no shade on, more of these types of experiences. They're amazing. They're very pleasurable. They're very liberating for people to just even go to that space. Yes, people find it overwhelming, but even to just see people having sex in public is, I think, very powerful for breaking down the conditioning. For me, it's just that we don't have enough representation of the other side. We don't have enough representation of the lowest stimulus version of what those are.
Because here in Australia, like you said, you could find those parties, but in other parts of the country, you wouldn't find that at all. So it's like, I'm guessing some people are probably coming to Melbourne or to Sydney just to get a little taste of something of that caliber,
Oh, yeah. I have many people that come to Tendercore or that come to see me that are from further out of the cities for my group events to meet people and have connection, and also come to tap into more forward energy. And so if we think that Melbourne is forward, it's really not in comparison to other places, and especially Berlin is particularly extreme because of the impression that they had because of the war. And then in the last, over the last decades, they've put in all of this energy into artists, and there was a lot of socialism, and they've put really a lot into being able to pay back their dues in a way. And so you really feel how much the punks rule the punks and the queers rule the city, and that's so powerful. And also everyone was just so sexy.
And that helps. So you said you've used the word queer a fair bit, which we spoke about earlier, is a term that you see as more of an anarchist term rather than a sexuality?
Yeah, so I think firstly, when it comes to queerness, I think we need so many more words to define what this is, because in the beginning, queerness was actually just about that you were weird. And at that point in time, to be weird was much more scandalous than what it is now. To not be doing exactly what society told you was really actually dangerous. And so it was a slur. And now it's been reclaimed to be something very powerful because of the way that we have now allowed gay people and queer people to exist. Thank God. It's been normalized because they bring so much nuance and flavor and excitement into the world. So for me, queerness is, yes, it's about your gender and your sexual expression and who you have sex with. For sure, that's queer. And actually, when we think about queer to be weird, that has nothing to do with sexuality. And so queerness also is a socio-political label of you really rebelling against the government, being an anarchist when it comes to not following the rules, and really fighting for other minorities. There are a lot of people that stand up for Indigenous rights and human rights and are doing a lot of deep work to break down heteronormative conditioning and societal conditioning that might just be sleeping with someone of a different gender, classify themselves as hetero, but don't actually follow the heterosexual norms or the straight or white framework that a lot of people do.
And with that mentality, you've got a lot of people that sit with you and agree. Do you get pushback from people that, like, because you're pretty out there on the socials and everything, do you get the haters?
Of course.
Right.
People will be mad at me for saying that queer people who don't identify with that sexually can't identify as queer. Like there's
So you're getting quick pushback from the queer community.
You could get pushback from, because I do allow people who don't necessarily identify as being queer sexually to come to my events.
Right.
Some people only have queer people come to their events because a lot of people can come and take up spaces that they might not actually be allowed to. So there's that.
But it's removing from the idea of the inclusivity, though, really, isn't it? Like, I don't know. That's my side of it.
Well, there's many things. I think it's important to have inclusive spaces, and I think it's important to have generous exclusive spaces. I think it's important that everyone just have their spaces, and then I think it's important to recognize that some people can come in as long as they're not the majority taking over. You know, so if I just invited men to come into maybe the queer spaces, or the flinter spaces, which is kind of
What's flinter? So I'm not familiar.
Flinter is female, lesbian, intersex, non-binary, trans, agender plus. Many words. It's actually
Flinter is easier to say.
It's flinter. So that's an inclusive space that is basically for the femmes, but also people who are identifying just with that concept generally. So there could be gay guys that don't necessarily align with, they're non-binary and they've shed the masculine alpha identity, and they do want to be more in the cuddling, and they do connect a lot more with feminine energy, then they are allowed to come into the space. And so it's kind of, this includes this women's inclusive space. But also, for instance, if I decided, okay, men, you can come to this space, and then all of a sudden they were the majority, then okay, it's not okay. But I think it's healing to have, different people coming into different spaces so that we can heal what our woundings are around those people. You know, I want to bring men into spaces of queer people so that there can be healing there.
Because as much as it's about sensual touching and even the erotic side of it, it's all mental though, isn't it? That's what it all comes down to.
Of course, because the thing is, you can't be in the slow and the sensual and feel the magnitude of sensations that exist in your body if your jaw is tight and you are thinking about the thousands of things that you need to do tomorrow. You're not feeling what's going on in your body. Like you're trapped inside of the mind. That is the constant rumination. That's the anxiety. That's the overwhelm. That's the coping and the hungry ghost of taking all the different drugs and social media and watching things and all the things that we do to cope, to not have to be in that slowness, because there's actually a lot of unhealed stuff there too.
And meditation plays a part in that sort of stuff?
Meditation and mindfulness, I think, is really important. It's become a little bit saturated, but it's still so important. But you can also find your own version of what that is. To me, I'm actually a bigger advocate for breath work. It's easier to be focusing on something than just sitting there. But both are very important. Mindfulness is very important. Even just having boundaries with yourself, with your phone. For me, my boundaries have to be that I can't look at my phone for the first 2 hours that I'm awake, and I'm doing, exercise and breath work and things like that. Not all the time, because definitely on the weekends I'm eating croissants and smoking weed. But there is a framework of starting to be in control of my mind in a way, because otherwise it can just go all these different places.
Yeah. And that is what it is, really, isn't it? People are just looking for the dopamine. And if you can't be without your phone, if you can't just take a deep breath, then you're really on the back foot when it comes to anything, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's, being in touch with yourself or anything.
This is the thing also, if we're running around like headless chooks over here, go, 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 like just so hard, so fast, all these things, then that's also how we're going to be in the bedroom. But
society's pushing that on us, so we don't have enough time and there's not enough hours in the day,
It's not our fault. This is the thing. Like, none of what I'm saying is directly attacking anyone or saying like, anything.
It's generational
bad.
conditioning.
It's generational conditioning. It's societal conditioning. It's capitalism. It's the pressure. It's the mystery. It's the unknown. It's the government. It's like so much. Then it's our own personal trauma. So there's so much there. But like for me, I think doing this type of work on ourselves through the sexuality space, I think then ripples out into the whole of your life.
Yeah, and I think that's it. If you can be in control of your own mind, then you're like, as corny as it sounds, like you can sort of do anything, can't you?
Of course, like creating good habits and being able to center yourself when stuff is chaotic is a superpower. Because if you're not centered in the chaos and shit goes down, then you can't actually help anyone. Can't help anyone. It's going to get more overwhelming, then you'll be stressed about the finances. You'll be stressed about your role as a dad or whatever it is. It all just kind of then will just spiral, versus if you actually know how to look after yourself and actually keep those thoughts at bay and know to do good things for yourself, then you're going to be able to be a bit more of a leader, I guess, in that space.
Mm-hmm. So if you're just going to give people tips on advice of what they can do to be a better person, you're saying breath work. What else?
Well, breath work and meditation, I think, is good for...
They go kind of hand to hand?
Yeah, self-reflection, but self-awareness. Like, self-awareness is massive. Like, how can you change what you don't know about yourself?
Okay, so break that down for us. So how do we start to be more aware of self?
Being more aware of self is, I think, looking at your patterns. A lot of the time we can really blame other people. We can lack accountability when it comes to what we've done and how we've been a part of something breaking down or something going wrong. Self-awareness is a lot about having the ability to reflect on what's happened or where we're at and be able to see what we could have done wrong differently, see what our body was feeling. Because
that's a dangerous game sometimes, though, because humans beat themselves up over stuff, So that's just my personal opinion. So there's a balancing act of know you've made a mistake, but to not let that determine who you're going to be in the future.
Yes, because the thing is, you can then stop yourself from going down the same route. Mm-hmm. I think that we're playing out the same patterns. And until we realize that we're doing that, we're just going to keep doing exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so I think the awareness is a lot about about changing something so that we don't have the same negative outcome, so that we can feel better and not be beating ourselves up. Mm-hmm. We can change the way that we talk to ourselves.
Learn from it.
We can learn from it. And so both the self-awareness is in the mental, but I also think the self-awareness is getting really strengthening our connections with our feelings. Because I think our feelings are the things that are going to enable us to have good relationships with people, especially our intimate ones, and be able to help us to be aware of what we need to give to ourselves. If you can start to feel in your stomach, fuck, I'm starting to feel really rageful, and your pattern is that you've hurt someone or that you've hurt yourself. From that, it's like, okay, the self-awareness is, okay, I'm starting to feel this rage in my stomach. What I know that if I stand here and I stay here and I stay in this conversation, something bad's going to happen. So actually, I need to go for the run. I need to go for my run.
Because exercise is important.
Exercise is huge. That's the free dopamine. That's going to help. That's going to be the consistent dopamine that comes throughout the day, instead of just the fast stuff like the chocolate or the phone or...
That's the instant dopamine.
That's the instant. The exercise is so important because it's lasting and it makes you feel good about yourself.
Yep.
When you're exercising, doesn't matter what your body looks like or not, you feel sexy.
Yeah. The thing is with exercise, for me personally, I'm good at it until you break the habit, and then it's hard to get back into the habit of it. That's the hardest thing. You just got to do it, don't you?
Same, but everything is about consistency. Doesn't matter if it's exercise or if it's about me, like, not looking at my phone in the mornings. I could do it for 2 weeks and then decide, I'll just do it these next 2 days. Like, I'll just do it. And then all of a sudden it's 3 days, then it's 4, then it's...
It's like eating badly or anything like that. It just becomes,
Everything is consistent, but it's actually not about needing to run 10 kilometers every single day. It's actually just about putting your shoes on and going and then just doing 5 if you can't do 10 that day, and then be, okay, I'll do 10 the next day. It's still about actually doing it.
Yep.
But when it comes to more things that people can do to connect with themselves deeper or become a better person, I don't know what the question was. But I think definitely exercise.
We've got exercise, we've got breath work and meditation. We've got reflection of self.
Self-reflection is a really important thing. I think actually figuring out what not your purpose is, but like questioning what it is that you want. Mm-hmm. Questioning what it is that you want so that you can follow that path a little bit to be able to unravel and unlock loving yourself more. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I think intimacy with self is the thing that everyone wants more than anything is self-love.
Yep.
And I think that that's going to come through love of your body, being seen by other people. So when I say like following your purpose, it's like, for me, it was always something that I desired to like be on stage, to just be able to rap or public speak or whatever it was. And for me, there was so much fear in that, but putting myself around people that were doing that and then just leaning into to the fear of that and realizing that it was a part of my purpose, I ended up doing it. And now it gives me so much. I feel like I get seen as the person that I truly am. I think that loving yourself has a lot to do with loving your authentic self, the person that's hiding behind all of that conditioning. So for me, doing things like that, being seen on stage or dancing on stage or taking a risk with your arts or a risk with your business, whatever it is, it's about being seen. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very powerful part of loving yourself.
Yeah, because it's an old saying, but who's going to love you if you don't love yourself? It's very important, isn't it?
It's that. That's what it is. And looping it back to the sexuality stuff is there's a lot of shame in that space. And if there's shame, then that's keeping us away from loving ourselves. Mm-hmm. So what deeper gift than to give ourselves, to work on that part of ourselves, to unlock a deep barrier that's stopping us from the thing that we want more than anything in the world. Like for me, it's a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, obviously having conversations like this and more events that are happening, we're moving as a society in the right direction, but we've still got a long way to go?
I mean, it kind of looks like we're just, in one regard, we are moving in the right direction, and in another, where the empire is completely falling and it's actually just getting worse and it's more fucked up. But I think there are things that balance each other out. I think definitely the systems that are at play, capitalism, the political system, I think that's all going to have to come down. It's all going to fall down. There's going to be a complete rewriting of the ways that things are run, because the gap between the 1% and everyone else has become much larger, and more people are jumping on the wagon of being like, hey, you guys are fucking us over, like we're not going to stand for it. And in one regard, you see how disgusting and toxic, for instance, abuse, sexual abuse, toxic masculinity is. And then in another, you see all of these incredible workshops around healthy masculinity coming up and people really being called in and called up, and the consciousness sort of raising in a way where you can talk to really young kids now and they've got the intellect of like a 25-year-old.
Because they've had all the knowledge at their fingertips.
Knowledge. So I think also the technology, AI in one regard is just going to really give us a lot of hope, and in another, it's so scary to even think about what the destruction that it can create, and the amount of our minds that it can take away. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say whether we're heading in the right or wrong direction, because to be honest, there's no separation between those things. Just like pleasure and grief and joy and pain, they're not without each other. But I think it's a very interesting time that we're being born right now. I think the Free Palestine stuff is really wild. I think it's really incredible that is, that's brought so much solidarity to different countries. I think people are really standing up for what is right now and putting a lot of energy into who they are as a person. And I think that's very powerful.
I think that we couldn't have this sort of shift until the internet age because people just didn't have the ability to research their own stuff. You were just fed what the media was given to you. So now there can be somewhat of a uprising potentially.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the way that information is power, knowledge is power. Gathering in big groups is power, and that's kind of how we can make shifts. And I think that it's really profound, and it's going to continue to be. We just need to actually continue to still be having our own critique of what information we are being shared, and not just take that in and have it as an echo chamber. Because I also think that there is. We need to have a guard at the base of our temple in the sense of not just believing every single thing that is given to us too.
Yeah, and that's very important. Like people will send me stuff and share things with me, and not everything that they send me I'm going to agree with, but that's part of being a intelligent individual, to see things and go, I believe that, I don't know about that, but make your own decision. Don't believe everything you see.
Totally. And this comes back to also strengthening who you are as a person and what your needs are and what you believe in. This is all a very big part of self-love, because you can't really act very well if you're in this sort of decision fatigue and I don't really know, and should I order this and should I get that, and I don't even know where I'm at and what I want. There's chaos without the structure of knowing self.
Mm-hmm. So spiritually, you're a spiritual person. What do you think happens to our souls after we pass? Where do we go?
Wow. I think we go into definitely a different life, a different soul, a different spirit, a different incarnation of being.
Have we all lived before?
I think we've all lived before in all different ways. I think that I feel like I have a purpose that my soul is knocking on my door to do. And I feel like I wasn't able to maybe do this purpose in previous lives because of whoever I was and whatever I was doing.
Or maybe the time period you existed.
Exactly. But I also believe that when people pass on, you feel them everywhere. They're actually, and the deeper that you connect in with the spirit of sex and spirituality in sex, the more it actually gives you an understanding of spirit in self and a deeper curiosity of these things around death and rebirth. But I believe that we are also, when people pass on, you can feel them everywhere. I feel like their essence is also just in all the things that we look around in. And I can have friends passed away and see them in a tree, or them bring signs to me when I need a sign or a symbol. I'll be thinking about like what I should do in this really deep, in a decision I need to make. And all of a sudden I'm like, can you give me a sign? And then I see a number plate and it just says like, do it. And I'm like, it's you. I know it's you, my friend. Yeah.
So our souls are eternal. We live forever, is what you believe?
Yep. Yep.
Interesting. So spirituality plays a part in what you do, but not necessarily, because I'm guessing there'll be people, all different spiritual belief systems that would come to the events. So you think that you all connect on that one thing that is sensual and touch? Is that what brings you together?
Well, the thing is, my work is innately very spiritual, but there's a lot of shade on what that is and what that means.
Labels again.
Labels, people also just being really burnt by religion, burnt by the neo-spiritual, very white, spiritual kind of fluffy community. So for me...
And preachy as well.
Preachy, you got to really be careful when you're in sexuality spaces or spaces where you're preaching about spirituality, because yeah, you can there's lots of stuff that's been culty before. There's lots of people that take advantage of people's power. So for me, it does innately have a very spiritual essence to it, because sex is spiritual. It's an altered state that you can go to. For me, when I'm deeply relaxed and deeply trusting and deeply open, it can feel like I'm in a portal, in a psychedelic portal. And that is very spiritual to me. And so I'm attempting to help people to get to that place. And coming to the portals, coming to the touch portals, coming to Tendercore, I can show people they can touch feeling that. They can touch feeling that, hopefully. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people are really seeking spirituality, whether they know it or not, because they're actually really seeking hope in a fastly decaying world.
Oh, deep. It's deep. Do you want, as we get close to wrapping things up, do you want to tell people, firstly, you mentioned a few books earlier. Is there books and podcasts that people that may not be aware of that could sort of help them in their journey? And then let us know where they can catch you and how they can be involved in one of your workshops or just a one-on-one session.
Great, yeah. So I'd say that Esther Perel, Mating in Captivity, is a book. But anything Esther Perel is amazing. She works predominantly with men and women. She's one of the biggest icons in the scene. She breaks things down really well. Listening to anything by her is incredible. Lots of case studies, lots of really normalizing people's experiences. So Esther Perel is incredible. I think Polysecure is also a really good book. Jessica Fern, I think it is. And that is a lot about relating in multiple relationships, but not necessarily them needing to be all your sexual relationships. You know, it's like, how can you deepen your relationship with your partner? What's your relationship with your kid? What's your relationship with your best friends? And knowing that knowing both your attachment styles, knowing both how you relate, so that you can craft a deeper relationship with them. So that's just about relationships. There's also pleasure activism, which Adrienne Marie Brown, she's amazing and ticks a lot more of the intersections of the stuff that I'm kind of doing. She's also a deep advocate, brown woman or black woman for social justice, and the fact that pleasure activism is political. Our relationships are political, and taking back our pleasure is very political. So she's amazing, or they're amazing. And then, just find your people. Find your people. Cam Fraser on Instagram is a men's sexuality coach. He's just ticking all of the boxes. Really inclusive language, really breaks things down and speaks very comfortably and inspirationally around sort of pushing back from this real manosphere stuff that's kind of coming up. So Cam Fraser is an amazing, social media person to follow. And then there's, of course, Tendercore, which is me. So my website's tendercore.com.au. You can book in to have one-on-one experiences with me, both in Melbourne and in Sydney, as well as, coaching just online. And then the group stuff, which you just got to keep an eye on, both the touch portals, the retreats. And then also, if you're in a couple and you feel like just, exploring a little bit deeper, then I'm your gal.
Quinn, I appreciate you coming in. It's been a great chat. I've learned heaps, and I hope that other people have too. And hopefully this conversation can help some people talk about these sort of aspects of their life that maybe gets swept under the rug a little bit.
Thanks, Maloney.
Cheers.
3,000.